We are just starting off.
Yes,
so you will
sure.
just give an introduction for 5-10 minutes, about the basic concept, and then you can say that we will take questions. Yeah. Good evening, everyone, and you'll be surprised that today's resource person, Sammanika Rawat, who is also the founder of YLCC, your legal career coach. We have also in our office associates who normally join, keenly follow YLCC as such. And there was a request from a lot of participants that we should have the insights regarding the internships, interviews, and beyond. Beyond, I can say that beyond law, not only in the communication skills, etc. So during this interactive session, we will be taking questions on the YouTube as well as on the Zoom regarding all those questions which can boil up or which normally creep up in the mind of any person who is studying with law and beyond that. Sammanika right now is in Australia and it's around 10 p.m. A passion to pay back to the society speaks and lies writ large only on this aspect, that despite 10 p.m., she feels that even though she is holidaying around, but she felt that there is something else where she can pitch in her knowledge. So when we requested her, she immediately latched upon that. I'll ask Sammanika that during this session, what does she intend to take forward around in 10-15 minutes? Then we will be taking questions which normally boil in the mind of a participant, student of law, etc. And then how do you actually, they say that the stable water gives you more clarity. So how do you bring that boiling expression in the mind of a participant? And how do you see that they can have a clearer picture? This is all what we intend to take forward. We'll be taking questions, as we said, on the YouTube as well as on the Zoom. Over to you, Sammanika.
Thank you so much for that very kind introduction. So, hello everyone, I'm Sammanika. As Vikas sir mentioned, I'm the founder of Your Legal Career Coach. It's a legal career mentorship platform where we used to focus on one-on-one mentorship as well as interview preparation. Now we are expanding into other domains as well. Majorly for past 2 years, actually since pandemic, I've been into legal career coaching. So I graduated from N-UJS Calcutta, and thereafter I was working with HSA advocates in the Mumbai branch, and with another legal leading edtech company as their placement head. And then from 2021, we had started YLCC. So this month, we just completed 2 years. In the past 3 years, I've had the opportunity of mentoring more than 1,500 students in one-on-one as well as group sessions. So mostly the common kind of queries which we get are related to how to secure internships, quality internships, how to convert them into PPOs, how to crack job interviews. Now that most of the students are either interning during their summer break or the fresh graduates are hunting for jobs. So the kind of queries we get these days for mentorship are related to how to crack the HR round, how to crack the technical round of the interview, and ultimately everything boils down to one thing, is what you're writing in your CV. So your CV becomes very important. At the same time, if you want your application to get shortlisted, then your cover body mail, which is I'll not say cover letter, because then a lot of people tend to commit this mistake of attaching the separate document, which most of the recruiters might not open. So I call it a cover note, which you write in the body of the email itself. And because usually any law firm or a chambers HR, if they have one, receives at least 50 to 500 applications on an average per week. And then if they have, let's say, 5 to 20 vacancies per month, max 20, minimum, let's say 2 or 5, it becomes very difficult for the HR to shortlist and to respond to everyone. Now, being a very active user on LinkedIn, I see a lot of students arguing on the fact that, okay, HR should give us the feedback and this, that, and all. If you're sending the same CV and cover letter to 100 recruiters and you expect 100 people to sit down and give you a feedback, that won't work out. Rather, you should sit down to customize your applications, to customize your CV, to customize your cover note, to send it to the right recruiter accordingly. Like, I receive so many applications, even on LinkedIn, despite knowing that I'm not a recruiter, I'm a career coach. A lot of people send me messages saying, hey, do you have a job for me, based on my profile? And like, they'll not even take efforts to to explain me who they are, where they're coming from, and then they expect me to give them a job and like check their profile. So a lot of these small mistakes we commit, like these are not something we do intentionally, but maybe unintentionally, maybe because somebody never corrected it during our journey. A lot of you might be those who are in the fourth and fifth year might be the COVID batch students who started their college journeys in an online mode, where these basic personality skills were maybe got skipped by the faculties who were supposed to teach these things, or the seniors who used to take the responsibility of mentoring these things. So those are the only aspects I would want to cover today. And if anybody has any doubts, please feel free to ask, because I was asked that I should come, and since Beyond CLC has such a good reach amongst young law students and fresh graduates, so I was asked if I can help and contribute to your growth in any manner. So I'm here to just answer your queries. Please feel free to ask any doubts you have.
We have just received first message, because we have received a lot of messages on the WhatsApp. What
Yes.
else they say that what steps should be taken to build a career? That will obviously mean internship and thereafter leading to the interview.
Okay, so since this is a very broad question, and the audience category would be very diverse, from, let's say, the first year students will be entering law school now with the June, July batch, to maybe fourth, fifth year students, or 3-year batch students. So I'll kind of try to give an objective answer rather than a subjective one. If you're wherever stage in life you are, whether you're entering law school or you're about to exit law school, what you need to understand is have a clarity in terms of the roadmap you want to have. So for example, if you want to say that where should you proceed in your career in law, write down what are your priorities in life, because in law it's not only the 50 subjects you study in law school where you can build a career. Rather, you might have not even studied, let's say, 10 more or 50 more subjects, and you can still pursue a career in that domain. I have a friend who graduated from NLU Jodhpur and is now known as one of the very popular lawyer who is doing international custody matters. Now, that is not a subject he ever studied in law school. Similarly, my batchmate pursued her career in outer space law, which was something maybe she studied towards the end of law school just as an elective subject. Right. So there are so many combinations. Service matters. Most of us are not taught service matters related stuff in law school. So there's a lot which law degree can offer you. It's not just the blind rat race behind like the 2 or 3 broad terms you might have heard of, that in law school you've only heard of. There's something called litigation, there's something called maybe corporate, and then there's something called maybe in-house ya fir sarkari naukri. That's not where the law ends or starts. These are just broader umbrellas to make you understand that there are plethora of options. So first, it's your responsibility to sit down, to do your research, to decode in terms of what lies in litigation. Don't take the decision of going for litigation or not going for litigation on the basis of somebody said कि इसमें पैसा नहीं है. Because there are equal number of people, actually good number of people, if not equal, who have made their name in litigation in early 5 years of practice, or 3 years, 4 years of practice. I know a friend who graduated from one of the top NLUs as the topper of the batch. He had the option of joining any big law firm in India, but he chose to practice litigation, and that too he chose Nainital High Court and not Delhi or Bombay High Court. Yet he started in 2017. There was a pandemic for 2 years in between, and right now he already runs a chamber with at least 5 to 6 juniors. So that is possible because judges these days are very much encouraging youngsters to come and argue. But if you do not have the skill sets, again, this term skill sets is also now I feel is used very casually, and everybody is going behind doing so many 10,000 courses, not even doing courses, actually just enrolling in courses in the name of building skill sets. No, even if you're doing just one thing, focus on building your personality, because there has to be one Ram Jethmalani and there has to be one Falin Nariman, right? They might have not wanted to become each other. Similarly, you have to become yourself. And for that, you have to work on your personality. That work can only happen when you do your homework properly. We all are the generation of social media. We've stalked so many people, though stalking is officially a crime. But we all are already very good at research skills. If you can do that research on social media and find the right answer you're looking for, why can't you do the same research on the real real platform where you might be willing to get the right information. Now in litigation, again, it's not just civil criminal, there's a lot more beyond that, because I talk to so many students on day-to-day basis, and they take decisions on the basis of criminal थोड़ा सा risky है, parents शायद allow नहीं करेंगे, civil शायद थोड़ा boring हो जाएगा, but there's a lot more than just these two. Even in litigation, there's constitutional litigation, there is administrative litigation, there is consumer litigation, there's taxation litigation, there are so many different ways of litigation, there's commercial litigation now. So before you jump to the conclusion in terms of, okay, litigation might not be fit for me because किसी और ने बोला है कि वहाँ पैसा है कि नहीं, go to the court, stand in the courts for at least 1 week, observe things. Even if you're in your first year or fifth year, it's never too late to go and stand in the court. Don't do internship just for the sake of collecting a certificate and then keep begging your seniors that please virtual कर दो internship को. Do running internships. आपका कॉलेज 2 बजे 4 बजे जितने भी बजे खत्म हो रहा है, लॉयर्स का एक्चुअल काम शाम को 5 बजे के बाद शुरू होता है, when they return back to their chamber and they do all the drafting work. I had batchmates who used to go for internship from 5 p.m. till maybe 11:30, 12:30. At times they used to return at 1 o'clock also in the night, but they interned with a senior and in the evening hours when he used to return and do all the drafting work. So they got that kind of an exposure. You can intern with district court lawyers, you can intern with public prosecutors. The diversity of seniors, and most importantly, focus on looking for a good mentor. गुड मेंटर आपकी कंफर्ट जोन में कभी आपको नहीं मिलेगा कि मैं बेड पे बैठ के अपना आराम से कंफर्ट से वर्चुअल इंटर्नशिप करूं. गुड मेंटर विल बी अ लोकल लॉयर who would be walking around, who will be performing, who will be running here and there, and then you when you shadow them, when you observe them from close proximity, you develop more skills. So that is one thing. Similarly, when you hear corporate, again, I spoke to Mr. Anjan Das Gupta. He's the senior partner of DSK Legal, and Anjan sir goes to at least 7 to 12 colleges every year for placements. Now, I was speaking to him last year in the month of March, and he said, Sammanika, 12 colleges, and every second person who sat for placement just said one word, cop job chahiye. Cop में क्या उनको ये भी नहीं पता. And the same thing happens with me also. Like when they come for mentorship to me as well. Yesterday I spoke to somebody. Today I spoke to a graduate with 1.5 years of experience. Everybody uses this term cop very, very casually. Again, they don't know what specifically within cop. So if you do that homework of simplifying it, trust me, friends, even if you're eyeing for tier 1 firms, like every tier 1, there are at least 7 or 8 of them now. And every tier 1 hires at least 40 to 70 freshers every year, 40 to 70 freshers. Now, do the calculation, multiply it with 8, you have at least 300 to 400 fresher vacancies coming every year just in tier 1 firms. Now, if all these 300 people who are getting recruited are going to say, I want a cop job, cop job, cop job, do you think the recruiting partner, it is his responsibility to do your homework and decide who will be the right fit? Then maybe it will just be a lucky draw thing that you got placed with real estate team, or you got placed with banking finance, or you got placed with M&A. Maybe anything which you may not like. That's a luck factor you go for. However, even if you're sitting for COP, you make it more specific. So COP commercial laws, but preferably the transactions team. COP commercial laws, but preferably the caps marketing. COP commercial laws, but preferably the M&A team. You simplify the work of the recruiting partner, and they are able to shortlist you for the right team based on your interest. Otherwise, what happens at the time of recruitment, you don't do the calculation properly, you don't do the homework properly, you don't communicate things properly, and then you get placed in the team based on your luck. And later, after 6 months, 9 months, 1.5 years, you suddenly one day you realize that I have a sufficient bank balance, but I'm not enjoying what I'm doing. I'm not having the satisfaction, job satisfaction. And then you see so many people quitting within their 1.5 years. So if you ask, how should you plan? There are certain things you need to do. Firstly, do your homework in trying to understand what are the conventional and unconventional opportunities in the field of law, because there are a lot of new areas, new domains within law and outside law which are creating vacancies for law students and freshers. Like for example, if we talk within law niche areas like media, entertainment, technology, within technology, again, it's a huge umbrella. There's fintech, there's AI, there is cryptocurrency, blockchain, there is GDPR. Then you have media entertainment, a lot of new niche areas. ESG is picking up, medical legal post pandemic is picking up. So all these things you need to do a homework in terms of first understanding मेरे पास options क्या हैं. It's like you going to a restaurant and expecting somebody else to decide on your behalf. Then it will be just a luck factor कि आपको पसंद आया या नहीं पसंद आया. But at least आपको पता होगा कि कौन सी चीज मीठी है, कौन सी चीज नमकीन है, कौन सी चीज खट्टी है. अकॉर्डिंगली आप अपने टेस्ट बर्ड के अकॉर्डिंग डिसाइड कर पाओगे ना कि ओके फाइन, मे बी आई लाइक समथिंग स्वीट, सो आई वुड वांट टू सेलेक्ट फ्रॉम दिस कैटेगरी एंड आई विल नॉट सेलेक्ट फ्रॉम दिस कैटेगरी. So similarly, that is the first homework you should do. Second is choosing the right set of organization in terms of what kind of work do they do. I recently got a call from a junior who had changed a chamber, thinking that the person will get a very good quality of work, but ultimately the person said I really want to quit this chamber because ये मेरे से केवल अपने social media post बना रहे हैं and they just want me to help them with their business development work. Similarly, a lot of students go for internships and then they complain कि हम तो केवल blogs लिख रहे हैं, हम केवल the senior is maybe interested in appearing for some competitive exam and we are just preparing notes for that person. So all this homework needs to be done beforehand. आप लोग lucky हैं, आपके पास LinkedIn जैसा app है where you can network with people, you can talk to people who worked in that organization in the past, you can talk to the students who've interned in those organizations in the past and get a general feedback. रिसर्च करो, रिसर्च करो, रिसर्च करो. इसीलिए रिसर्च स्किल्स इज समथिंग विच इज मैंडेटरी फॉर एवरी लॉ स्टूडेंट एंड लॉयर टू बिल्ड अ गुड करियर इन लॉ. अगर आप कैजुअल होते हो, अगर आप अपने रिसर्च करने की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी खुद नहीं लेते हो, यू आर जस्ट गोइंग टू कॉस्ट योर करियर. Then comes the next thing, which is trying to understand the JD, job description, as well as the nature of the work of the recruiter. Like for example, if you are interested in banking law, now your expectation of banking could be that maybe along with banking you're interested in doing the financing work, and therefore the ideal team you should join is somebody who's doing a lot of banking finance and maybe let's say with a combination of project finance, because all these infrastructure construction projects have a lot of financing that is required. But if you did not do your homework and you ended up with a team which does purely banking or litigation work, which is mostly a debt recovery and DRT work, you might get frustrated thinking that, oh, I expected some other kind of work, but they are doing something else. Now, how can you say that after 6 months of 9 months of working in that firm? Why did you not do that homework beforehand to figure out what they're doing? Why did you not ask the right kind of questions during your interview? बिकॉज इंटरव्यू में आपको लगता है कि कोई आपका टेस्ट ले रहा है. बचपन से जो इंटरव्यू की एक इमेज बना दी जाती है, बिल्कुल वो रोडीज देख के इंस्पायर होके, तो एक तो लोग आजकल ग्रुप डिस्कशन और इंटरव्यूज के लिए जाते हैं एंड देन दे थिंक कि समबडी इज गोइंग टू ग्रिल यू एंड देन यू हैव टू प्रूव योरसेल्फ एंड पता नहीं कौन सा वैलिडेशन सीख करने के लिए जाते हैं. But interview is nothing but a formal conversation. They are just trying to understand if you can fit in their uh, team or not, because it's their extended family. In the same manner, you should ask the right set of questions to understand if they fit in the right category of a future recruiter or future job environment you are looking for. Like during my interview, my senior asked me, Samanika, what exactly are you looking for? I said, sir, I am a first generation lawyer. I'm looking for a mentor who could guide me because I might not know a lot of things at the moment. And this is a new domain I'm picking. So your priorities in life should be very clear. ऐसा नहीं कि सब चाहिए, कि पैसा भी चाहिए, ये भी चाहिए, ये भी चाहिए. Then you are not being honest with yourself, and then you are trying to run away from doing the introspection. For some, based on whatever circumstances, money could be a priority. For some, maybe like for me, a team size was a priority. I At that point of time when I was starting my career, I didn't want to work with a very large size team. I was intentionally looking for a small size team. That's why I was not sitting for a lot of big firms at that point of time. Then for somebody else, they had my batchmates have had certain education loans. They wanted to clear that. So for them, securing a job with a high package was a priority. It does not matter which team, what domain, and all. So they went with some of the some people even went for LPO jobs, which I do not went for PSU job for some time. So all this calculation you have to do for yourself, and for that reason you have to ask the right questions. Do not randomly go to anyone and everyone and just 10 लोगों का ज्ञान सुन के and then फिर खुद को confuse किया. उससे बढ़िया go to a right mentor, whoever it is, चाहे paid mentor हो चाहे unpaid mentor, does not matter. We didn't have the concept of having paid mentors during our time. That's why I had to start it, because I realized that there was a gap in the industry. But your mentor could be your senior from college who was able to achieve. Ideally, avoid going to maybe a 1 or 2 year senior, because they are themselves exploring. सो इट इज लाइक वो भी एक जर्नी है, वो भी एक पाथ, जस्ट भटकते भटकते देख रहे हैं उनके लिए क्या सूटेबल होगा. अगर हाँ आपके गोल सेम है, आपकी प्रायोरिटीज लाइफ में सेम है, आपके सर्कमस्टांसेस सेम है, देन यू ऑल्सो look up to them that okay fine, I want to also achieve exactly the same way, maybe then you can rely on them. However, at least 3 to 4 year senior is a good time frame where you can approach somebody, because then they know okay what are the repeated mistakes people made in the past 2 3 years, which they made, their immediate juniors made, and then maybe they'll be in a better position to guide you. लिंक्डइन पे आजकल इतने सारे बच्चे 3rd ईयर से 5th ईयर तक के सब करियर कोचेस बने हुए. व्हाई? बिकॉज चैट जीपीटी से ज्ञान निकाल रहे. हाउ कैन यू ट्रस्ट जीपीटी? लाइक यू योरसेल्फ डोंट नो इफ जीपीटी नॉलेज इज राइट और नॉट, राइट? अदरवाइज जिसको आप वो ज्ञान दे रहे हो क्या वो जीपीटी यूज नहीं कर सकता? इट्स अ फ्री सॉफ्टवेयर एज ऑफ नाउ. So be very, very careful in terms of what is your source of information you are gathering. Learn to ask yourself the right set of questions to understand what your priorities in life are, what your interests are, what you really like and what you don't like. For example, when I was sitting for the banking law interview, now I always had inclination towards maths and numbers. So I was able to justify to the recruiter on the day of the recruitment that, like in 12th, I had maths. Then even in CLAT, I scored good marks in maths, which helped me secure a good rank. And then 5 years, I was doing corporate internships only. So ultimately, I want to work in the banking team. So identify what are your likes, what are your interests, and then try to connect the dot. Then it will become much more easier for you to justify to anybody or to convince anybody why they should give you that job. Like similarly, I had worked with the recruitment team of NUJS for 3 years. So therefore, like getting a placement head job opportunity was not that difficult for me. Similarly, in the law firm, I have worked in the construction arbitration team for a good amount of time, handled good amount of matters and all. So now, if I want to convince somebody that I should be given a chance to work in the construction arbitration, it might be easier. But let's say suddenly I tell somebody that I want media entertainment or IPR, then they will also say, "Na, ye kahan se aa raha hai? Where is it coming from?" So similarly, for those of you who are in their final years, who still don't know Gen Cop karna hai, litigation karna hai, kya karna hai, and if in-house is something you're looking for, because a lot of people confuse corporate with in-house also. Corporate stands for pure corporate teams of law firms, which are specialized teams, but usually very casually people use corporate for in-house roles also, because companies के साथ role होता है. So if you are going for a corporate role through naukri.com or through any other headhunting platform या legal recruitment platform, in that case don't see कि कौन सी कंपनी हायर कर रही है, कि आज मे बी लेट्स से सर्फ एक्सेल की टीम कंपनी हायर कर रही है तो आज वहां अप्लाई कर दो, कल मेक माई ट्रिप हायर कर रही है तो वहां कर दो, जोमेटो हायर कर रही है तो वहां कर दो. नो, दैट अगेन विल नॉट हेल्प यू सिक्योर अ जॉब और एन इंटर्नशिप फॉर दैट मैटर. What you have to do is sit down with yourself, ask yourself, what do I like the most? What are my likes and dislikes in life? खाना पसंद है, जोमेटो में जाओ, मजा आएगा काम करने में. You will not get bored, because इन हाउस में क्या होता है, 3 4 साल के बाद you tend to do most of the same type of work every day. तो काफी लोग बोर होके इसीलिए frequently change करते हैं jobs इन हाउस में. But वो motivational factor यही रहेगा, because you will be passionate towards what the company is doing, because that is something you really like. घूमना पसंद है, मेक माई ट्रिप, इंडिगो, किसी भी एयरलाइंस में जॉब करो, मजा आएगा आपको. नाउ ऑन द अदर हैंड, इफ यू डोंट लाइक व्हाट दे डू एंड यू एंड अप जॉइनिंग देम, for example, if you're somebody who does not like to travel at all and you end up joining a travel agency, आपका आधा टाइम तो लैंग्वेज ही समझ में नहीं आएगी कि आसपास के लोग इतना ओवर एंथू क्यों हो रहे हैं, किस चीज के लिए, बिकॉज आपको पसंद नहीं है ट्रैवल करना. सिमिलरली, इफ you're somebody who loves, let's say, vegan food, and you work, or you're a very diet conscious person and you work with a food tech startup which delivers and creates advertisements around jalebis and chola bhaturas and all of that, आपको खुद से ही पर्सनल एक इंटरनल कॉन्फ्लिक्ट होने लगेगा कि विच काइंड ऑफ अ ब्रांड एम आई वर्किंग विद. सो इट्स ऑलवेज बेटर जितना आप खुद के साथ होमवर्क करोगे टू नो योर सेल्फ बेटर, टू डू योर इंट्रोस्पेक्शन बेटर, द बेटर डिसीजंस यू विल बी एबल टू टेक alongside your career, and then connect which law joins the dots. Like I had a student, second year student, who came to me, said, I always wanted to become a musician but my father didn't allow, so now I want to become a media lawyer only. Similarly, I know somebody else who always wanted to become a musician, guitar बजाने का बहुत शौक था but couldn't become a musician, so now he's a media lawyer. So that way, if you connect your areas of interest, your passions, your likes with your career, you'll be very happy and satisfied in the long run. Otherwise it will just be like a mirage. Okay, I think I've spoken for a very long time. Vikas sir, you can take other questions.
There's a saying in Hindi, they say Gagar mein sagar. So you have completed everything. One of the takes which the participants can say that the substance of your submissions would be, I would say that the heart is on the left, but it always thinks right. So first you have to think what the heart is saying. Of course, the second tip, what we can understand is that hard work is the key to the success mantra. So one night short ups cannot be actually take you to higher limits. One is that, like we spoke about, what is the effect of the social media? Like you've spoken day in and day out on the LinkedIn, and even in the today's session, the value of blogging, value of certificates and internships, when you ultimately try for the passion to take things forward in your career later on.
Right. Social media, if done in the right manner, in the right quantity, can be very, very helpful. But it can get addictive. It can influence, give you the false validation, which I see a lot of young students these days getting. And they think that maybe, oh, these many number of likes or these many number of views might help us in getting a better recognition in the longer run, which is not true, because it's a small community and like everybody ends up meeting each other somewhere or the other in the longer run. So if you talk about blogging, yes, if you're able to articulate your thoughts very well, any form of writing for that matter, you're writing on LinkedIn, you're writing on a blog, you're writing an article, you're writing a paper, if you're able to research well and articulate it better in a manner in which, let's say, a 10th standard student or a professional who has 10 years of experience, both are firstly able to understand your language, and secondly and most importantly, both are able to get some value out of it. That is the perfect article, I feel. Is it should not be filled with a lot of jargons that you're trying to project yourself to be somebody which you are not, or which for that matter nobody is able to understand at the first place. So if you're writing, if you're able to write in a language which एक स्कूल का बच्चा भी जो 10th 12th अभी अभी पास किया है एंड बहुत ज्यादा लॉ नहीं जानता है, वो भी समझ जाए, उसको भी वैल्यू मिल सके, और एक प्रोफेशनल जिनका फील्ड में ही 10 साल का एक्सपीरियंस है बट उनको भी उस चीज को पढ़ के कुछ वैल्यू मिले, तो दैट इज द परफेक्ट थिंग you should try to target for. Secondly, whenever you are writing, you should be very clear, whom am I writing for? Like, what is my purpose? Am I trying to just build a fan following in terms of a community building we are doing? Or am I trying to generate any kind of leads because I want to offer some services? Or am I trying to just share my thoughts? Like, I'm writing it like a diary. And then accordingly, you should choose your tone. It cannot be that one day you're writing because आपको ज्ञान देने का मन कर रहा है, दूसरे दिन you're writing because saying, अरे ये तो it's my personal account and I am just here to share my thoughts, and third day, so then your audience will keep on getting confused. You'll not be able to have a consistent audience. On social media, your audience becomes your community. So that community is something like once you start regularly creating content as a creator, to some extent you do become responsible to what your community is getting the content. Otherwise they'll stop engaging with your content and you lose the purpose. Because कितना टाइम तक ही आप पोस्ट डालते रहोगे जिसमें कुछ भी एंगेजमेंट नहीं आ रहा है? लोग बोलते हैं numbers are just a myth. at after one point time it does become, but अगर बिल्कुल भी engagement नहीं आ रहा तो आपका purpose और motivation दोनों खत्म हो जाएगा. Now, in terms of certificates, trust me, not needed at all. Like I have so many certificates which I've never used anywhere because वही हमें law school में लगता है, वो fear रहता है, FOMO रहता है, तो इस वजह से आप randomly certificates collect करते हो. But if you are not able to justify, like a lot of students who are interested in IPR come to me and they say, "Oh, we've done World Intellectual Property Organization WIPO certificate course." I say, okay, fine. You want to write it in your CV, we'll write it in your CV, but you tell me what are the 3 practical things you learned from that course. And they say, oh, that we don't know. So then what is the point of writing? आप 10 सर्टिफिकेट लिख लो, लेकिन उन 10 सर्टिफिकेट से एक एक चीज भी आप नहीं बोल सको कि प्रैक्टिकली जो चीज सीखी है वो लाइफ में कैसे अप्लाई करोगे. लोग इतने डिप्लोमाज, इतने ये वो सब करते, 50 कोर्स करने की जरूरत नहीं है अंडर पीयर प्रेशर. आई सी पीपल एनरोल्ड इन सो मेनी डिफरेंट प्लेटफॉर्म्स बट नॉट डूइंग इवन वन कोर्स सीरियसली. इससे बढ़िया आप एक कोर्स करो, कोई भी एक कोर्स करो. अगर आप उसका 30 to 50% भी सिंसियरली करते हो, आप बहुत ज्यादा वैल्यू गेन कर लोगे. सिमिलरली इंटर्नशिप्स कर रहे हो, 50 इंटर्नशिप्स, 12 इंटर्नशिप्स, 15 इंटर्नशिप्स करने की कोई जरूरत ही नहीं. 2.5 महीने की छुट्टी में 1-2 महीने, 1.5 महीने, वट एवर इज योर कॉलेज टर्म ब्रेक, लाइक do one internship but do it religiously for 1.5 2.5 months, and you'll learn a lot more than you could have learned. So there is a balance you need to maintain in your CV in terms of the quality versus quantity. That quality always has to be higher over quantity. ठीक है, it's okay that like I'll not say कि 5 years में एक ही जगह पे बार बार जाके 10 बार internship करो. But even if you're doing, let's say, 5 different internships, do those 5 internships in a proper manner for an extended period of time. आप 3 weeks 4 weeks के लिए जाते हो, they don't even remember your name and you expect them to give you a PPO. I know a tier 1 firm which had 32 interns in the month of December last year. Imagine 32 interns अगर हर month उनके पास हो. How many PPOs can they give? Let's say half, 15 to 16 students get a call back first. कॉल बैक भी 15 लोगों को आ गया, हर महीने के बैच से 15 लोग भी अगर वो कॉल बैक देने लगे, हाउ मेनी कैन दे गिव अ पीपीओ, right? Because they have to go for campus placement also. So you are unnecessarily going to increase competition for yourself just by trying to collect so many certificates. यहाँ ये webinar हो रहा है, वहाँ वो boot camp हो रहा है, nobody will bother. Ultimately, at the end of the day, especially in our field, legal field में, trust me, nobody cares आपके पास क्या certificate है. All they care about is if you're claiming that you know this, if you're claiming you've studied this, are your fundamentals clear or not? And those fundamentals you do not learn in courses or you do not learn in internships. Those fundamentals you learn from the bare act. But you don't open bare acts. Nobody opens bare acts. Fancy commentaries पकड़ेंगे, ये पकड़ेंगे, वो पकड़ेंगे, वो सारी चीजें बाद में. आप ये समझो, आप एक वकील हो, कॉमन मैन आपके पास आके सवाल पूछता है, वकील साहब क्या ये हो सकता है कि नहीं, अगर मैं कोर्ट जाऊंगा क्या मैं जीत सकता हूँ या नहीं. law ke according you have to answer, and the law is in the bare act, the primary law. So if you develop that habit of reading the bare act, you develop the habit of building that knowledge. वो बोलते हैं ना कि पेड़ जितना घना होता है उतना ही झुका हुआ होता है, बट अदरवाइज उतना ही फिर हवा में जो वो होता है. तो वैसे ही है कि सोशल मीडिया पे यू आर जस्ट अपलोडिंग सर्टिफिकेट्स, दिस दैट वैलिडेशन, आपको लग रहा है 500 लाइक्स आ जाएंगे, इट्स अ वेरी गुड थिंग. ठीक है, आप करो. आई नॉट से मत करो, बिकॉज अगेन यू माइट टेक ऑफेंस फॉर इट. बट एक्सटर्नल वैलिडेशन के लिए मत जाओ, गो फॉर इंटरनल वैलिडेशन. दैट आई एम हैप्पी दैट टुडे आई हैव फिनिश्ड कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स एक्ट. नाउ इफ एनीबडी आस्क मी एनी क्वेश्चन फ्रॉम कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स एक्ट, आई विल बी एबल टू आंसर दैट. The day you start going inward and doing the inner work, you will be able to get better results and you'll not be bothered by दुनिया में कौन क्या कर रहा है. It's fine. सबके लिए there is a different slice of pizza. Yes.
You actually put it in the right manner. That कबीर दोहा, बड़ा हुआ सो क्या हुआ, जैसे पेड़ खजूर, पंथी को छाया नहीं, फल लगी आती और फल लगी आती जो. So ultimately you say that you have to become more like a tree which can actually bear good fruits and people can actually cherish that. So एक ये भी सवाल हर के मन में आता रहता है कि जो इंटर्नशिप है वर्चुअल करने का फायदा है या फिजिकल. वैसे तो you have explained it somewhat in the brushing lines to the effect that it is always better to be offline rather than online. So what subtle difference does it make, or there's a starking difference between the two?
Okay, so before I share my personal feedback, I understand. See, this is a disclaimer. I have to say that I understand for a lot of people, financials are an issue, and those who could not afford going to a metro city, paying money in terms of the paying guest and then travel and everything, and for them, pandemic opened this opportunity that they could do virtual internship and gain experience. I understand that, and for that, I feel that yes, there should be an option to do a virtual internship. However, at the same time, from learning aspect, if I have to say, it makes a like I said, that courtroom internships are not just about what research you've done, what opinion you've made. There's a lot more learning that happens through observation, and that can only happen when you're physically there. When you walk through the corridor, you see people, the way senior advocates walk, the way people brief the seniors, the way they argue before the court. Lot of things, the non-drafting, non-desk role work which happens, the kind of conversations which happen, the discussions between two different seniors, and you are just privy to that conversation. A lot of those things also help in your self-development, in addition to the standard research and drafting work you do. Secondly, most of the information is confidential. So when you do a virtual internship, your seniors are not comfortable in sharing those kind of informations with you. While on one side, as an intern, you might feel very happy at the end of the internship that I got to research on so many different queries, I got to assist the senior in so many different manners, but you would not even know that what were the additional things you could have gained which the senior did not share because it was a confidential information. So especially, again, it also depends on the domain you are going for. For example, if you're interning in the tech domain, because tech in itself is most of the firms are doing research related work only, so for that kind of a domain, researching or working from home could be an easy option. But for a domain like IPR, where everything revolves around confidentiality, then most of the seniors are not like comfortable enough to assign tasks to the juniors. Also, because you have to understand what a lot of law students were doing wrong, because of which the minority which could have benefited from this is suffering. The thing is, people were interning at three places at one time during pandemic. Camera, web camera band hai, bol diya sir, network kharab hai, this, that and all. Ab you are trying to balance or juggle three internship. From your side, as a student, आपको तीन certificate मिल जाएंगे, which is very good. But from a lawyer side, you don't know what if the opponent client has hired the other lawyer you are interning at. Now, the moment a client gets to know that both the offices are sharing one resource, whether he is an intern or an employee does not matter, the lawyer might end up losing that client because there is a breach of confidentiality from their side also. So again, from that aspect also, they're not comfortable, because I got that complaint from so many professionals who said we gave virtual internships to students, and later after a few months we saw them updating their LinkedIn that they were doing two parallel internship during the same time. Or rather, if they were interning with a bigger brand, they just updated their LinkedIn with a bigger brand's name, removed the other lawyer's name from their LinkedIn profile just to avoid the clash on LinkedIn. But do you think the professionals will not notice? They do notice. And that's why, like I said, because of these kind of unethical actions which were taken by some of the students, the minority which could have benefited, who could not genuinely afford to go. Because I remember whenever I went for internships to Delhi, Hyderabad, Bangalore, every time, like, it is a cost of at least 10 to 15,000, and maybe not everyone would be in a position to afford that. In that situation, I would again reiterate the fact, go for local internships. Do you need not always go for metro city internships. Trust me, there are good number of mentors in your local cities as well. वो बोलते हैं ना, दूर के ढोल सुहावने लगना. It's that kind of mirage only, that you think that okay, you can get good exposure only in other cities. Had that been a case, your lawyers in your local states would not have been minting so much of money. There are so many good lawyers from big colleges, NLUs, Delhi universities, who have studied, who have worked in big firms in metro cities and have gone back to their own cities. I know people, I know somebody who was working with Deloitte, went back to Nainital during pandemic to start his own practice, and is doing very well. Azhar Rab sir is very popular in the arbitration circle. He's from NLS Bangalore. He came back to Dehradun to like continue his practice. So you can definitely find good mentors these days who've gone to bigger cities, gone to bigger colleges, gotten good exposure, and have now come back to their own hometowns and where their roots are. So go do the local internship with those people, or wherever your college is. Like I mentioned, do running internship. Do not waste your evening hours just by scrolling around and like just by social media scrolling. Rather utilize that time period, 3 months, do a running internship where even if in the evening hours, 5 hours after college hours, you can go and work with a local lawyer, you'll not have to pay additional rent. You're already staying in PGs or hostels. So that is like प्रॉब्लम सबको पता है कि देयर आर डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स, बट एज लॉयर्स हमें प्रॉब्लम से ज्यादा सॉल्यूशन पे फोकस करना पड़ता है, उसी की तो हमारी डिग्री मिलती है हमें. तो दैट्स हाउ यू हैव टू फोकस ऑन कि व्हाट इज द सॉल्यूशन फॉर यू. एंड इफ आई हैव टू revisit the answer, I would still go for that offline internships will give you more value. However, for whatever circumstances you have, I have full respect for that. In those circumstances, then look for alternates.
On the other way, they say that what you have said, that normally even in the temples and churches, we say near to church, further from God. So the bottom line is that you say that you also look around the lawyers, etc., who can help you to churn out the best within you rather than this thing.
Yes.
What is looked in an interview, like we have discussed about internships? What is normally looked while you are being interviewed or you have gone for an interview? How do you dress about it? How do you show your resume? And what are the key mantras which they can keep it in the mind and can move forward?
Right. For interview, I'll use my SSB experience because I was an Indian Army aspirant. So I have given a good number of SSBs and I was recommended also for the JAG branch. So because SSB, they focus a lot on the psychology. And I realized that it's the same thing most of the recruiters also follow without expressly undergoing a psychology training to do that. They look for your personality. At the end of the day, it's the personality that matters because there are different stages in which your application gets shortlisted. Now, at the beginning, of course, your grades is something which becomes easier factor for them to filter because if 500 people are applying and they want to interview, let's say only 10 people, then like shortlisting first 50 becomes easier based on the grades because it shows consistency in your hard work. Second level would be your knowledge. Like they would want to know if you're saying that I'm interested in this field, do you even know about it, right? But there are a good number of people like who end up mugging things. So like you can mug up the laws, you can have good grades, you can have good theoretical knowledge. But at the end of the day, if you don't have that personality to apply that law, if you do not have the perspective building capacity, then you might not get the job, irrespective of whether you are the best person in the room or not in terms of on paper value of yours. Secondly, when I say personality, they want, see, ultimately they're hiring you because they see a future partner in you. At least most of them do want to see, because if they're hiring a fresher, there is a lot of investment that happens on the side of the recruiter in grooming that fresher. And a lot of freshers end up leaving their first boss in their first 1.5 2 years, a boss or a leader, irrespective, depending on the luck what they get. Now, despite knowing that a person might end up leaving me in next 1.5 year, if I am taking that responsibility of grooming this fresher, that transition period of being a student in college, being very casual and this that, to making him that professional, if they're investing in this grooming, that is done thinking that what if, let's say, out of 50 people they hire, what if at least 2 people stay and they can look for a future partner in them. At the same time, even when you're working with them, see, you're in the field of law, we spend at least 10 to 12 hours in office with each other. Nobody would want to have a grumpy person sitting next to them who's spreading very toxic vibes, does not gel up, is always very cutthroat and very self-centered, does not want to work in team atmosphere. No, because a lot of work we do, especially in the law firm atmosphere at least, is a very team oriented work. You might be doing a due diligence work, the report has to be prepared for 700 pages, you can't do it alone, right? So ultimately जब वो लोग last 5 या last 3 पे पहुंच जाते हैं, that all 3 are exceptionally good, Then if they have to decide whom they want to hire, then ultimately again it comes back to your personality. And this is one thing I see most of the students not working upon. I had a student who lost her very important in-house counsel interview because she had cleared the technical round, but she messed up the HR round. And even professionals who come to me for up to 14 years of experience, who've come to me and they've said, Sammanika, we are planning to switch. I said, okay, fine, I'll help you, but you tell me which organization. And they said, that is something you have to tell me. So that means you're not working on introspection part. That means you're not working on your HR questions. And that's exactly why people get stuck. They don't get what they're looking for. They're not able to negotiate better for themselves. Right. So this is exactly what the recruiters look for. Your technical knowledge by default becomes very important. Now, if I have to go into specifics, ki technical mein kya, because technical mein again sky is the limit. Divide your curriculum into what you must know, what you should know, and what you could know. That way life becomes much easier. When people come to me for their interview preparation, I tell them, let's sit together and divide what syllabus you must know, what syllabus you should know, and what syllabus you could know. Because must know में आपके direct questions आएंगे. You're saying I'm interested in mergers. Okay, what do you understand by a demerger? What do you understand by a hostile takeover? These kind of direct questions, definition clauses. But they don't decide whether you'll get a job or not. The recruiter is just asking you these questions to make you feel comfortable कि ठीक है आप ये बोल रहे हो मुझे ये डोमेन पता है तो बेसिक ये चीजें आती होंगी कि नहीं. ये क्वेश्चन के जवाब भी नहीं दे पाओगे, वहीं पे इंटरव्यू खत्म. बिकॉज आप खुद बोल रहे हो मैं आई एम आईपीआर एंथू, आई एम दिस एंथू दैट एंथू, बट बेसिक सवाल के जवाब नहीं दे पा रहे. Then comes your should know. If you're writing, I've researched on the concept of seat under arbitration. Okay, do you know the difference between seat versus venue? If you're saying I'm interested in IPC, do you know the difference between homicide not amounting to murder, not amounting to murder? These kind of questions which used to confuse, right? वाइवा में भी बहुत पूछते थे कॉलेजेस में. So plain pleading, different types of writs वगैरह. So this is should know, because if you're saying you are interested, you've studied law for 5 years, you've done internship, this is by default you should know. Now if you इसी में से आपके नंबर मिलते हैं, इसी में से डिसाइड होता है कि आप नेक्स्ट स्टेज में जा रहे हो कि नहीं. देन कम्स द थर्ड कैटेगरी विच इज कुड नो, जहाँ पे आपका स्काई लिमिट बन जाता है वाला बात कि ओके व्हाट इज करेंटली हैपनिंग, आर यू अवेयर ऑफ दिस इंपॉर्टेंट जजमेंट, व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, दिस मैटर विच इज हैपनिंग, और कैन यू अप्लाई योर ब्रेन्स इन अ हाइपोथेटिकल सिचुएशन. नाउ कुड नो में ये होता है कि ठीक है, इवन इफ यू आर एबल टू अटेम्प्ट इट, परफेक्टली नहीं भी किया कोई बात नहीं, द रिक्रूटर विल बी लाइक ठीक है, एज अ लॉयर यू आर एबल टू थिंक, बिकॉज लॉ में देयर इज नथिंग राइट और रॉन्ग, इट इज ऑल अबाउट पर्सपेक्टिव्स. सो एनएलयू और नॉन एनएलयू में बस यही डिफरेंस, और कुछ डिफरेंस नहीं. एनएलयूज में बस आपको ट्रेन किया जाता है कि आप खुद की पर्सपेक्टिव बिल्डिंग एक्सरसाइज में ध्यान दो कि कैसे आप एक ही चीज को अलग अलग तरीके से इंटरप्रेट करके उसके अलग अलग मीनिंग निकाल सकते हो. नॉन एनएलयू में यही चीज पे फोकस नहीं किया जाता, इसीलिए नॉन एनएलयू के स्टूडेंट्स को रिक्रूटमेंट में स्ट्रगल होता है, बिकॉज रिक्रूटर्स लुक फॉर दैट काइंड ऑफ अ पर्सनैलिटी हु कैन थिंक फ्रॉम मल्टीपल एंगल्स. अगर हर कोई एक ही तरीके से देखेगा तो आप भी और सामने वालों के वकील भी सेम ही चीज पढ़ोगे ना, सेम इंटरप्रेट करोगे. हाउ विल योर लॉयर मेक मोर मनी, right? So that is the only difference. So if you feel that somebody is differentiating between you and somebody else based on the college you went for, just show them that you can think about a particular situation from multiple perspective, and that happens when you read a lot. इसीलिए लॉ में रीडिंग एंड राइटिंग हॉबी बाय डिफॉल्ट होनी चाहिए. आप दिन भर इतनी चीजें पढ़ रहे हो, सोशल मीडिया में एड्स पढ़ रहे हो, ब्लॉग्स पढ़ रहे हो, कैप्शंस पढ़ रहे हो, पढ़ तो रहे ही हो सब. ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई भी ऐसा इंसान हो जो पढ़ता नहीं, पढ़ आज की डेट में हर कोई रहा है. बट आप क्या पढ़ रहे हो, आपके एरिया ऑफ इंटरेस्ट से कैसे कनेक्ट हो, दैट इज समथिंग दैट मेक्स ऑल द डिफरेंस. So, if again coming back to your question, interview में what they are looking for, definitely technical knowledge, but more importantly, what is your personality and can that personality fit that environment or not?
They say that first you have to learn, then you remove the L, and then you start earning. And
yes, and there's a lot of unlearning that happens. So
unlearning, unwinding. Unlearning and unwinding.
Yes,
Akshita says, can you share a brief insights on prospects in trade law?
Actually, that would become another conversation because यहाँ पे we just have 10 minutes. But in brief, Akshita, if I have to say, trade, like I would say because it's not a subject which is taught in law schools. Most of the law schools don't teach it. There are a good number of internships available. The trade center, because they had come to our college to offer a credit course. So there are a good number of internships available, and through research model, you can go and explore some opportunities. Like directly job opportunities, I doubt there might be, because I haven't seen many floating publicly. But yes, there are a few research-based internships which you can get with the research organizations, and from there, you can take it forward.
Since we're taking on the interviews, Rishabh says, ये हर के मन में भी ख्याल आता है. Once somebody says, what is the salary expectation? How do you answer, or how does the employer also take into it?
Right. I'm so sorry, Rishabh, for missing that question earlier. So whenever somebody is saying salary expectation, you have to do that homework in terms of where is that organization fitting in the salary brackets. Now, Glassdoor है या बहुत सारे और भी platforms हैं जो comparative analysis दे देते हैं कि tier 1 firms का क्या range चल रहा है अभी, tier 2 firms का क्या range चल रहा है, tier 3 firms का. If you're talking about the corporate firms. If you're talking about in-houses, again, depending on the city and the brand name, the package varies. Chambers, city wise, again it varies. Baron Bench ने last year पूरा एक अभी कुछ महीने पहले ही शायद एक पूरा वो series निकाला था कि कौन सी city में lawyers average कितना दे रहे हैं.
But the Supreme Court judge said that you should pay well.
Yes. Of course. So now, firstly, you should know which bracket you are going for, but because it can't be that you're going for a tier 5 firm, but telling them that I expect a tier 1 package. It happened with one of my students very recently. He was sitting for an interview and he said, I need at least 80K. Their budget was 25 to 35K. Now, if you do that mistake, you block that prospect of having a further conversation. Then it is not negotiation. Negotiation तब होता है जब एक decent range आप उनको दे सको कि ठीक है ऊपर नीचे. दूसरा चीज, you need to do a homework also in terms of if you are planning to negotiate. Does that firm actually negotiate? Is there something you can bring on table for them? For example, I'll give you my personal example. So I was planning to return to law and I spoke to a few litigation lawyers. Now, one of them wanted me to use my social media presence for the firm's branding or chamber's branding. Right. So that is something which I was bringing on table additionally in terms of what other associates of the firm would be bringing. And therefore, I had that option of negotiating on that. Of course, I didn't do it, but I'm just saying. Right. So similarly, if you're bringing something new, then there are different strategies people follow. So expectation may, you can be honest with your expectation, but it has to be realistic in terms of where in the bracket of the category of organization the particular place is falling. Secondly, if you're applying for mid-level positions, like if you're coming with experience, then the market standard is 25 to 30% of last drawn. उस पे आपको 25 to 30% hike मिल सकता है. या फिर if you're asking for beyond 30%, then you have to justify why. But the best thing I always suggest is बहुत ज़्यादा critical ना होके, बहुत ज़्यादा rigid ना होके. What you can always do is, like, this is something I do and has mostly worked for me, is I tell them that, okay, you tell me what is your budget right now, and if the budget does not match my expectation, I simply tell them that, okay, fine, at the moment I'll accept this. But after 3 to 6 months, if I'm able to prove my caliber through my work, will you be open for another round of conversation? So that way, you do not put this impression that you're only thinking from your side. You also tell them that I'm genuinely interested in contributing to the firm, and then I'll be asking for a fair compensation. So most of the recruiters don't say no for that, because then they're like, okay, fine, even we will, and if we are able to get a substantial contribution, why shouldn't we compensate equally? But if you're very rigid on day one, it says that nahi meko, just abhi a girl came to me 2 weeks back. She was getting an offer for I think 35K or 40K, 35K or 45K, and she just wanted 5K or 4K more. So she said, they said ki after tax deduction itna hoga, and I want to say ki sorry, they said without tax deduction itna hoga, and I want to say ki after tax deduction itna karo. So I told her ki if that additional 10%, if that additional 4K or 5K is actually making a lot of difference in your life, only then you should be very rigid in terms of negotiating it and dropping that opportunity to go for next recruiter. But if you feel that is not something which might be there, and if it is a firm policy कि एक level पे इतना ही देंगे सबको, then you can always tell them that okay fine, at the moment I'm ready to start at this level, but after 4 months or after 6 months, would you be open to another round of conversation depending on my performance? Right. So there are different ways in which you negotiate. Negotiation is never about just एक stage पे एक word बोल दिया, माने तो माने, नहीं माने तो नहीं माने. It's never like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a point well hammered, which says that there shouldn't be a yawning gap between the expectation and the actual payment in the field. And like you've also said rightly, that you should also know what is this market sentiment going about. And they say that suno sabki karo apne man ki, but you should also understand that what type of value insights you can go say. And then now we take beyond, since it was internships, interviews, now we talk of beyond. Now, how can one improve the communications? Are they mantras, or these are some rigid aspects which cannot never be explained?
No. Personalities are dynamic and they can always be worked upon. फौज में कहते हैं कि there is no such thing as weakness. It's always an area of improvement. बस आपको पता होना चाहिए कि आपका एरिया ऑफ इम्प्रूवमेंट क्या है, ना आपको उसमें एज इट इज कॉल्ड एरिया ऑफ इम्प्रूवमेंट, सो यू शुड बी वर्किंग ऑन towards improving that area. Communication is just one of them. I remember 5th standard the school where I was studying, वहाँ पे बिल्कुल भी English speaking culture नहीं था. And suddenly when I changed my school in 6th standard, so I used to sit at one corner and like not speak at all because everybody around me was speaking in English. And then again, वहाँ पे भी चलो थोड़ा थोड़ा somehow I completed my school. But when I went to NUJS, now we had people from all parts of the country and some friends from South India also, some friends from abroad also. And there was no choice to not speak in English. Then suddenly I decided, okay fine, ठीक है, टूटी फूटी इंग्लिश बोलेंगे बट अब बोलना ही है, बिकॉज अब चॉइस नहीं है. किसी भी कंपटीशन में पार्टिसिपेट करना है तो इंग्लिश में ही बोलना है. So few things which helped me, which were taught to me by my mentors, and maybe you can also incorporate is, सबसे पहले आप सुनना शुरू करो, बिकॉज आप अपने जब सारे सेंसेस यूटिलाइज करते हो तो आपको बहुत फायदा होता है. तो जहां पे भी इंग्लिश कॉन्वर्जेशंस हो रही हैं, न्यूज डिबेट्स हो रही हैं, एक बहुत अच्छी चीज मेरे टीचर ने मुझे सिखाई थी कि आप जब भी खाना खा रहे हैं, कुछ भी ऐसा काम कर रहे हैं, जब आप कॉन्शियसली कुछ एक पर्टिकुलर चीज टीवी नहीं देख रहे हैं या म्यूजिक नहीं सुन रहे हैं, उस टाइम में बैकग्राउंड में आप कुछ चला दो, लाइक कोई भी इंग्लिश में लेक्चर, तो वो सबकॉन्शियसली आपके दिमाग में जाता रहता है. एंड दूसरा चीज, मतलब उन्होंने बोला था कि अगर इंग्लिश में अच्छा होना है तो कोशिश ये करो कि आपको सपने भी इंग्लिश में आए, क्योंकि सपने तो सबको आते हैं लेकिन मोस्टली अपनी लोकल लैंग्वेज में आते हैं. सो सेकेंड थिंग इज विच हेल्प मी अ लॉट वाज, देन आई वाज सेड कि जो भी आप मूवीज या सॉन्ग सुन रहे हैं उनके कैप्शंस ऑन कर दो एंड ट्राई टू रीड इट इन द सेम पेस इन विच दे आर स्पीकिंग. शुरुआत में टाइम लगेगा, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, यूट्यूब पे आपको स्पीड कम करने का ऑप्शन आता है, उसके बाद आप उसको नेचुरल स्पीड कर दो. इवन नेटफ्लिक्स पे आपको स्पीड कम करने का ऑप्शन आता है. एंड देन ट्राई टू सिंग द सॉन्ग्स इन द स्पीड इन विच दे आर सिंगिंग, चाहे आप लिरिक्स पढ़ के करो. Try to repeat the what do you say, the sentences or the dialogues of the show you are watching. So these are different ways. And lastly and ultimately, प्रैक्टिस तो डेफिनेटली इट्स लाइक, जब तक जितना आप प्रैक्टिस करोगे उतना ही ज्यादा आप उसमें बेटर होते रहोगे. तो जितने भी आपके घर पे लोग हैं, फ्रेंड्स हैं, उनसे आप कोशिश करो कॉन्वर्जेशन करने की. ये डर निकाल दो कि लोग जज करेंगे. हर कोई हर किसी को जज कर रहा है, बट एट द एंड ऑफ द डे सब खुद को ही जज करें ये सोच के, लोग मुझे क्या कहेंगे. किसी को अपना खुद को दूसरे को देखने का टाइम ही नहीं, बिकॉज एवरीबडी इज फोकस्ड ऑन थिंकिंग लोग मुझे क्या कहेंगे. सो ट्राई टू हैव दैट कॉन्वर्जेशन. एंड लास्टली एंड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंटली, हमारे टाइम पे मिरर वर्क यूज टू हेल्प. आप लोगों के टाइम पे जूम आ गया है ऑल्टरनेट. जूम पे रिकॉर्डिंग करो एंड उसको वीडियो देखो. हाउ एम आई स्पीकिंग, what is my body language like? Is it very rigid like this, or am I using my hands? Is it a very like comfortable language? Am I making people feel that I'm an approachable person, or am I being very rigid and rude talking like that? So those are the things you should observe. I used to do that practice in front of the mirror, that I used to stand in front of the mirror, and when I used to speak, I used to look at my body language. How are my hands moving? How are my eyes moving? Am I smiling or not? Am I being too rigid? आप लोगों के लिए तो रिकॉर्डिंग का ऑप्शन आ गया जूम में. आप पहले एक बार बोलो, रिकॉर्ड करो, उसको दोबारा से देखो. सो देयर आर सो मेनी डिफरेंट थिंग्स यू कैन डू. एंड ऑल्सो फॉर इंटरव्यू प्रेप, what you can do is आप 3-4 कैरेक्टर्स बना के रख दो घर में, जो भी आइटम्स है, लाइक there's a pillow, there's a table, there's a chair, and just think that these are the humans who are sitting in front of me and I have to give a lecture to them. Now I have to look at all of them, because when I'm talking to a room full of 3 people, I'll not look at one person, but I'll make everyone feel that I'm talking to all of them. So that's how you can practice. So ये सारी चीजें हमारी पर्सनालिटी डायनामिक होती है. हम सब एवरीडे ग्रो कर रहे हैं. तो ये मत सोचना कि आज कम्युनिकेशन खराब है तो हमेशा ही खराब रहेगा. बट हाँ, यू हैव टू डू द होमवर्क अराउंड इट.
3 P's what we normally speak of. You have said that practice, persistence, and performance. So once you practice it, then there will be a performance, and that can only be through persistence. And I'm reminded in Mahabharata, Arjun asked Bhim कि भाई अंधेरे में भी रोटी कैसे खा लेता है. वो कहता है अर्जुन अभ्यास और अभ्यास. So that is what the practice is. The last question, what is on the Zoom?
There's one in the chat. I think Fawzia has left. She wanted me to tell her how to start
the judiciary career or preparation.
Yes.
Please guide me.
Yes. So on our YLCC's blog, yourlegalcareercoach.com, I've written 2 blogs. One is for first, second, third year students who are just starting their judiciary journey, and one is for fourth and fifth year students. So I would highly recommend आप लोग जाके एक बार वो पूरा डिटेल में पढ़ना. Now, if you're a beginner, the best thing you can do is first sit down and identify the states you want to appear for, because सबका syllabus अलग है, सबका pattern अलग है, and सबकी expectations अलग है. तो पहले वो नॉलेज होना बहुत जरूरी है, बिकॉज लोग कहते हैं हम पढ़ रहे हैं, बट क्या पढ़ रहे हैं? अगर गोल क्लियर नहीं है तो आप तीर मारोगे कैसे? निशाना नहीं लगेगा. तो उसके लिए पहले आपको वो अंडरस्टैंडिंग होनी चाहिए कि व्हाट आर द स्टेट्स यू आर टारगेटिंग, एंड उसका सिलेबस आपके पास होना चाहिए. नाउ अगर आप इनिशियल ईयर ऑफ लॉ स्कूल्स में हो तो आप अपना अगेन जो प्रोसीजरल लॉज हैं उनके बेयर एक्ट्स बहुत अच्छे से पढ़ो, न्यूज़पेपर डेली पढ़ो, या फिर अगर आप न्यूज़पेपर नहीं पढ़ते हो बिकॉज देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ नेगेटिव न्यूज इन टर्म्स ऑफ एक्सीडेंट्स एंड डेथ्स एंड दिस दैट एंड ऑल, तो व्हाट यू कैन डू इज यू कैन सब्सक्राइब टू सम और दी अदर न्यूज लेटर्स. काफी सारे प्लेटफॉर्म्स अब मंथली न्यूज लेटर्स निकालते हैं जिसमें स्पेसिफिक न्यूज आती है, वो आप कर सकते हैं. यूट्यूब पे बहुत सारे चैनल्स हैं. आई यूज टू फॉलो बायजूस IAS हिंदी, स्पेशली प्रोफेसर पुष्पेश पंत के लेक्चर्स, बट आई थिंक ही इज नो मोर टेकिंग दोज सेशंस. सो वहां पे वो इंटरनेशनल रिलेशंस के वीकली अपडेट्स डालते हैं. ऐसे बहुत सारे यूट्यूब चैनल्स हैं. आई थिंक बियॉन्ड लॉ CLC में भी काफी सारे जजेस के लेक्चर्स हैं. सो आपका जो इनिशियल स्टेज है उसको अपना अवेयरनेस स्टेज रखो. वहां पे ये मत सोचो कि मुझे पहले से पता है क्या करना, मुझे पहले से. आई हैव सीन लॉट ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स डू दैट. वहां पे बी ओपन टू लर्निंग एंड एक्सप्लोरिंग इन टर्म्स ऑफ ओके आई एम जस्ट ट्राइंग टू एक्सप्लोर what all this field has, and then accordingly I can redirect my path. First 3 years of law school, I would say, even if you are very much inclined towards judiciary, I would still say go do internships, go get practical exposure, because केवल रट के, केवल थ्योरेटिकल नॉलेज रख के आप कोई बहुत अच्छे जज नहीं बन पाओगे जब तक आपको ग्राउंड रियलिटीज नहीं पता होंगी, चैलेंजेस नहीं पता होंगे. तो बार एंड बेंच का जो कनेक्शन है वो हमेशा बहुत जरूरी होता है. तो उसके लिए आप फर्स्ट 3 years डू इंटर्नशिप्स एज मच एज यू कैन. अगर आपको जुडिशरी में जाना है ठीक है, कोर्ट इंटर्नशिप्स करो, बट करो, एक्सपोजर जरूर लो. However, the moment you enter your fourth year, now fourth year and fifth year is the time where you have to एकदम से streamline and you have to center yourself. That is not the time when you can take the risk of just exploring. तब नहीं कह सकते आपकी आई एम, बिकॉज आई हैव सीन लॉट ऑफ पीपल हु से फोर्थ ईयर के एंड तक, फिफ्थ ईयर के फर्स्ट सेमेस्टर तक वील इंटर्न एंड देन लास्ट 6 months वील गिव फॉर जुडिशरी. नो, government exams in India demand tapasya, hardcore tapasya. You have to be 100% dedicated to them. So therefore, then you have to streamline. It's better if you can afford, take coaching from a reputed organization. ऐसे नहीं, आजकल हर कोई दूसरा इंसान जिसका खुद का भी पेपर क्लियर नहीं हुआ वो भी कोचिंग दे रहा है. तो be very very careful, because how coaching helps is you don't have to do the work, somebody is doing your work, they are providing you information in a structured manner, and then you just have to focus on studying from those resources. However, if you cannot afford, that's also completely fine. Then you divide your syllabus. Now, the best approach for your career, be it judiciary, RBI, SEBI, even for job, corp job, this job, that job, is whatever time period you have in law school in your 4th and 5th year, divide it into quarters of 3 months each. And then plan your schedule ki every quarter, what is the target am I trying to achieve? एंड दैट वे आपको रियलिस्टिकली प्लान बनाना है कि वेदर आई एम गोइंग फॉर यूपीएससी और जुडिशरी, आपकी कैलिबर के अकॉर्डिंग आपको कितना टाइम चाहिए. Because otherwise, people start their journey, and in between you'll see your friends getting placed, you see somebody clearing CLAT and getting good ranking, and then you get deviated, you get distracted, you get into self doubts, this that and all, और आप पूरा इधर से उधर हो जाते हो. Then you say, अरे पेरेंट्स बोल रहे हैं अभी जॉब कर लो, दिस दैट एंड ऑल. देन यू स्टार्ट लुकिंग फॉर एक्सटर्नल एक्सक्यूजेस. वो तब नहीं होगा जब आपका गोल बहुत क्लियर होगा, आपका पाथ बहुत क्लियर होगा. उसके लिए आपको क्लियर टारगेट क्वार्टर वाइज बनाना पड़ेगा, पर 3 month क्वार्टर. नाउ देयर आर सम पीपल हु ग्रैब इन्फॉर्मेशन वेरी अर्ली, लाइक उनको 3 घंटे का चीज वो 1 घंटे में ऑब्जॉर्व कर लेते. ओके फाइन, दैट पर्सन माइट से दैट मे बी आई नीड ओनली 1.5 year and I'll be able to crack the paper. That's fine. You might be taking 3 hours for something what somebody else is taking 1 hour. Then in that case, if you feel no, I need at least 2.5 3 years to prepare, that's fine. Then you have to be mentally prepared, because कभी भी कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम के लिए जाओ तो रियलिस्टिकली अगर प्रिपेयर करना है तो आपको अपनी मेंटल हेल्थ का साथ साथ ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा. ऐसे नहीं कि एकदम से स्ट्रेस ले लिया और एकदम से क्रैश डाउन हो गए और फिर थेरेपी करा रहे हो. बिकॉज वो तब होता है जब आप ढंग से प्लान नहीं करते हो. अगर आप क्लियर प्लान करोगे कि मुझे रियलिस्टिकली 3 साल चाहिए, okay fine, 5th year के बाद I'll take a drop year and this is how I'm going to plan. Lastly and most importantly, do mock papers irrespective of आप कब कहीं पर भी हो, अभी कहीं पर भी हो, किसी भी स्टेज में, जुडिशरी, यूपीएससी, आरबीआई, कहीं पे भी प्रीवियस ईयर पेपर्स करो. और वीकेंड यू कैन कीप फॉर द पेपर्स, solve a paper, next day sit down to analyze the paper. जितना आप पेपर एनालिसिस से सीखते हो उतना और कहीं से नहीं सीखते हो, because then you remember कि मैंने ये गलती करी थी और इसका सही आंसर ये था. That is something which worked for in my favor for CLAT as well as AFCAT. These are the 2 competitive exams I gave. क्योंकि जितना आप उनके पेपर्स करते रहते हो, साइड बाय साइड आप अपना थियोरेटिकल नॉलेज भी पढ़ते रहो, बट ये भी देखो कि where do I stand. Being very honest, this is getting recorded, this will be on YouTube. When I started my CLAT journey, the first mock paper I had 7 out of 100 in general knowledge. And then over a period of time, I could see the graph growing. And ultimately, I got admission in NUJS, which is the 3rd best NLU. So that can only happen when you're able to analyze your growth. आप ये सारी चीजें करेंगे, आप बाकी चीजों से distracted नहीं रहेंगे. You'll be very confident, you'll be very happy with your preparation. You'll be able to enjoy the process, most importantly.
Before we start for the day, like what you said, we have sessions more than 60% from the judges of the different high courts of Pan India. We've also brought professors, etc., from Pan World. And that's why जब ये जर्नी शुरू की कोविड के टाइम में, तो we are hardcore professionals. यही सोचा कि वे एक लॉ के बियॉन्ड भी कुछ सोच सकें, तो इसलिए टॉपिक का नाम ही रखा बियॉन्ड लॉ, so that the soft skills, etc., can also be spoken. And we keep on receiving messages where those who say that free, we have not monetized our channel, we are only doing it free so that people don't get mugged up towards the advertisement, etc., so that they can learn from that. We have sufficient from our professional incomes. That's the separate thing. And before we part, those who have missed it, they can always subscribe to our channel. And be that as it may, जो अभी समानिका ने बोला, तो उसको हम यही कह सकते हैं लास्ट लाइन में करते हुए, when the sky is clear, then why fear? So once your knowledge is clear, then everything can be done. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe, stay blessed. And on Sunday, we will be connecting on how to execute and implement the consumer protection cases by Justice Paramjit Singh Dhaliwal, a former judge of Punjab Haryana High Court, and who was also the president of the Punjab State Consumer Redressal Forum. Do stay connected with us. And thank you, Sammanika. And we can say good day for others and good night to, good evening to Sammanika, because it's around 11 o'clock. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.